Welcome to another edition of the podcast known as Blending the Family. I'm your host, Tommy Maloney. Before we get started, just want to let you know my new book, My Dad's Advice at 5:04 a.m., is available on the website, blendingfamily.com. And if you order it from the website, it will be autographed, or you can also go to Amazon and purchase it that way. Either way, the new book, My Dad's Advice at 5:04 a.m. is out. Now, on with the podcast.
And you say that your wife asks you what have you got on your resume to qualify you for this. Well, even if you had stuff on your resume, I don't think it would have mattered, because they're just so parenthood is so crazy. It's so unpredictable, and but at the same time, as you say, it's totally worth it. And I have that moment where I'm putting my son down in the evening, and it's been a full day, and particularly you come home from work and then you switch into parenting mode, after a day full of colleagues and emails and deadlines and all sorts of projects. And then you come home and you have to switch into parent mode. And by the end of the day, you're exhausted. And I've been having this moment lately where I'm lying in bed and I'm just staring at my son, and just the peace on his face as he's resting, and I go, it's just the most beautiful thing.
Welcome to another edition of the podcast known as Blending the Family. I am your hostess with the mostest. It's me, Tommy Maloney. Today on the podcast, we have Adam Burns. Who's Adam Burns, you ask? That little teaser? Wasn't that beautiful? Love the accent. Adam Burns is a communications professional, basketball superfan, horrible dancer, lover of books, hater of celery, and most importantly, a husband, a father. He is also a co-producer and co-host of the Dad's Group podcast, which helps fathers and helps families through positive, constructive, and inspirational conversations. And the funny thing is, at the time of this recording, I am going to be a guest on their podcast, the Dad's Group. Okay, so check them out, dadsgroup.org. All that information will be in the show notes, including, do me a favor, sign up for the newsletter. It's on Substack. It's just simply called Blending the Family. If you sign up, you will get a free ebook, my first book, 25 Tips for Divorced Dads. Okay, there you go. Blending the Family on Substack, and you'll get a free ebook. There you go. How have you been? Doing great. I want to give you a couple of reports. Number one, my weight is down. I'm actually at 208.8. Haven't weighed myself in a few days, but I will let you know on the next podcast. And I think I mentioned this in the previous podcast. I was with my family as we celebrated my grandmother, Helen, her 100th birthday. And she is not one of those 100-year-old people that is not with it. My grandmother is with it. We were tired after the party. She wanted to keep going. She was ready to go hit a rave. And this was only at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So I'm so proud of my grandmother. One of the biggest comments was, "Oh, you've got some great genes," because I think my grandfather was 93 when he passed. I could be wrong, but anyway, I'm going to keep this short because I want to get you to this episode with Adam Burns. Adam Burns and I had a blast. We talked about the organization Dad's Group. We talked about one of their charity events, which you'll find in the show notes. But we also just talked about what it's like being a dad. He's got a newborn-ish, and so it brought back some memories for me as far as when I was a stay-at-home dad, or the times when I was a chaperone for my son Connor on school field trips. So I went down memory lane big time with Adam. So This was a lot of fun. I'm going to tell you, we had a lot of fun. And I look forward to not only being on the Dad's Group podcast, but as I told them as we were starting to wrap things up, I really want to go to Australia. I've met so many great people virtually, and so I want to just go and experience Australia and New Zealand as well. So there you go. So once again, we have Adam Burns. Adam Burns is a communications professional, basketball superfan, horrible dancer, lover of books. Well, who isn't? Hater of celery. I like celery. And most importantly, a husband and father. He is also a co-producer and co-host of Dad's Group podcast, which helps fathers and helps families through positive, constructive, and inspiring conversations. And as Terry Crews would say, your success is my success. Good thing is, Adam, I know how to count to 5 or from 5 down. So I qualify for maybe a kindergartner. I don't know. Adam, again, as I was just saying, thank you so much for taking the time and explaining and talking to us about dadsgroup.org. I've been watching recently the stuff that you guys are posting on LinkedIn. As the audience knows, the only social media I'm on is LinkedIn, and that's how I get my news as well. So again, after a billionth time, thank you, Adam, for taking the time. I get excited getting to speak to people in Australia because it's this time zone thing that really blows my mind, that it's, noonish your time and it's after 8 p.m. my time. And as I was telling a recent guest who's also in Australia, Michael Ray, when we started winding up, I said, listen, it's past my bedtime. I'm an old guy. Especially you right now, Adam, you've got the rest of the day to just go hang and surf and eat great food and do whatever you guys do in Australia.
Tommy, it's a pleasure to be here with you, and thank you so much for having me. And yes, it is a bit of a time warp, isn't it? A bit Back to the Future when we connect this way. So, but no, thank you so much for having me.
I'm excited, and I think, unfortunately, as a fellow podcaster, I have these crutch phrases, and I've realized I'm excited is usually how I start everything off. And it truly is excitement, especially when we get, when I say me, get to talk to fellow dads and fellow people in the parenting space, in the fatherhood space, you guys are also very heavy into men's mental health. So we have a lot to cover. I am going to steal a question. Yeah, there is.
Yeah, no.
I'm going to steal a question from your YouTube channel, from the Dad's Group YouTube channel. So here's the first question for you, Adam. What is fatherhood to you?
Oh, yes, it is a great question. And I think to me, it's funny. I didn't have a great relationship with my father. I have a mixed relationship with my additional father, my stepfather. So, I came into fatherhood myself with a bit of a mixed bag of ideas of what fatherhood could be. And I think in the nearly 2 years that I've been a dad now, which is crazy to think about, it sounds so cliched, but it is an adventure every day. And with my little boy, as I said, nearly 2, every new day has its own set of games, of experiences, of adventures, challenges too. Poopy nappies, definitely. But yeah, it really is something new every day, particularly at this stage where he's just growing more and more into himself. So I've just got the one boy at the moment. And
I'll
I
sell you.
you
I
know,
can
I,
sell you some kids. They're all potty trained if you want. They would love. They would
I'll
love to
swap you. I'll
come
swap
move to Australia.
you. Yeah. Um, but yeah, I think it's just the thing that I keep learning is you can step into it more and more when you let go of the expectations or the ideas, the preset ideas of what it should be or could be, and just take it each day as it comes, each moment as it comes. And I'm just enjoying so much this process of getting to know my little fella, and yeah, sort of imparting part of me onto him as well. So yeah, I think fatherhood to me is that just ongoing process, ongoing journey, day in, day out, and it's at the end of the day, it's relationship, and we have lots of relationships in life, but none quite as unique where you get to know someone from the very day they were born, and literally, you know, he'll be able to say, well, you've known me since the day I was born. How many people do we get to say that about? So
That is so
yeah,
true.
I think it's yeah. um, I look at my circle of friends, people that are important in my life, and I can only sort of think back so far of how long we've been networked for. Whereas, yeah, your family, particularly, your parents, your siblings, they've known you for your whole life. So, yeah, I think it's a really precious opportunity then as well of, we carry memories within us. Imagine being able to influence some of those memories for someone else. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that because you're creating thoughts in my head when my son's 19 and
Mm.
when he was first born, I was a stay-at-home dad and it was
Yeah.
so much fun. And like you were saying, diaper changes, trying to entertain, um, you
Mm-hmm.
know, you the dad, the human, also sleep deprived. I mean, all
Yeah.
that, and it is worth it. It really is worth it. And you know, at you know, again, my son's 19, and I'm just amazed that he survived with me because I jokingly tell people, Adam, that when I first approached to my former wife, I said, "Hey, I want to be a stay-at-home dad," and she's like, "Well, you're an only child, you've never babysat, and I'm pretty sure you've never changed a diaper. What qualifies you to be a stay-at-home dad?" And I looked at her, I said, I'm going to be his dad. I guess that's it. I have nothing on my resume. But yeah, you make mistakes, Adam. Yeah, they're frustrating times, but
Mm,
it's like you
mm,
said, you're with
mm.
them the day they're born, and then you get to watch them. I
Yeah.
mean, again, your son is two, but man, how wonderful it is to get to see them become their own little humans going forward.
Mm. And you say that your wife asks you what have you got on your resume to qualify you for this. Well, even if you had stuff on your resume, I don't think it would have mattered because it like they're just so parenthood is so crazy. It's so unpredictable and but at the same time, as you say, it's totally worth it. And I have that moment where I'm putting my son down in the evening and it's been a full day and particularly come home from work and then you switch into parenting mode, after a day full of colleagues and emails and deadlines and all sorts of projects. And then you come home and you have to switch into parent mode. And by the end of the day, you're exhausted. And I've been having this moment lately where I'm lying in bed and I'm just staring at my son and just the peace on his face as he's resting. And I go, like, it's just the most beautiful thing. Um, and maybe because he is asleep and not not crying or yelling or needing my attention, not he's just gotten into the dad phase. So, maybe that's why it's my most enjoyable moment is it's minimal interaction. But at the same time, just going, wow, like even when you're not doing anything, you're just the most precious thing in my life. So yes, I think, as you say, Tommy, that absolutely worth it. And for the most challenging, most difficult moments, I don't think I've ever had the thought, like, I wish I could go back and reverse this. Like, I have had the thought of, maybe I do trade him up for an older child who's potty trained, but never. Because man,
oh yeah,
he looks exactly like my wife. He's a spitting image of his mother. But when it comes to eating and the other end of things, he definitely takes after his father.
I hope nobody's eating at this point as they're listening to this episode. But that's a beautiful thought right there, Adam. I don't want to scare you, but I'm going to, and that is,
please.
You're talking about the calmness, and you're laying there, and you just have that loving dad moment, and it's beautiful. But when they get older and they're out with their friends, you're going to be wide awake, panicking, going, I hope they're okay. Did the car break down? Are they at a party? Are they doing things they shouldn't be doing? They're not home yet. I hope they still remember my phone number. I mean, all these little things are going to start popping in your head. So you've got plenty of years to seek therapy after this conversation.
And look, I hope he remembers my phone number, because Lord knows I don't. So
I think we're in trouble.
Yeah.
I want to touch on something we're talking about, and I know on the website, on the Dad's Group website, you had talked about this in a podcast. I really would like to, because I feel that there could be some similarities here with relationships. You talked about your stepdad. I'm going to say that in our family, we removed the word step because we never understood what step meant. So we substitute the word with bonus. But
I love that. Yeah.
Thank you. I have no idea where I heard it, but I love it too. But my question to you, Adam, is how did your relationship with your dad impact you? And you were briefly talking about you really didn't have a relationship with him. It sounds like you had a closer relationship with your bonus dad. So if you're okay with unpacking this.
Yeah. Look, I think I have a better understanding of my relationship with both my dad and my bonus dad now as a father. Like, I don't think you can even come close to understanding how hard it is to be a father or father figure in a young person's life. It is an extremely difficult role to play. And because there are so many expectations that are built up, how many of us have watched, TV shows or movies where the dad's in the street, throwing to contextualize for your side of the world, throwing a baseball with the kids. So I think I have a lot more compassion and empathy now. But, when I was a kid, my relationship with my father, when I was younger, it was my dad doesn't love me. And I'd arrived at that conclusion because he didn't spend a lot of time with us. He was a workaholic. He wasn't really engaged in the activities that we were engaged in. He wouldn't come watch us play sports. He never came to school. And by the time I hit my teenage years, I had a bit more of an understanding of, okay, he's got some mental health things going on, and my father had depression and anxiety, and he really struggled with those things. But still, I sort of put him in this box of, well, he's different and I'm different, and we're just two different people. Our interests are completely separate. There's nothing here that bonds us or connects us. And so I had arrived at this conclusion of, well, we're never going to be, the dad, son, father, son, best mate. We're never going to have a relationship like that. And so I kept my father at arm's reach. And he eventually succumbed to early onset dementia, completely lost everything in a second, lost all memory, lost ability to formulate words, had to go into full, an aged care residence. And I found myself, I was holding all of that relationship, and he held none of it. So I think, I think what I learned from my father was there are so many things that can hold us back, not just as fathers, but as men, from being who we want to be. And he was very much from a generation that didn't have the skills or didn't have a culture around them that really supported them to pursue better mental health, to pursue better relationships, to pursue better health in general, which is, for dads coming in, for new and expecting dads now, that's totally the case. There's so much out there now to encourage us in our role as dads and to become the best men we can be. But yeah, so I think with my dad, he passed away just before my son was born, which sometimes I wonder, if he was alive and if he was still cognizant, would me being a dad now have made our relationship a bit easier? I'll never know. But I think, yeah, that relationship was always, it was one where we just missed each other all the time. And I think that's where a lot of my motivation to be a better dad and being part of dad's group has come from, of not necessarily that I want to do better than my dad, but to take the things he did really well and build on those. With my bonus dad, he's a pragmatist. He's a very practical person, and so he was at everything, and I think just that presence was what really impacted me, particularly as a teenager. That I think I probably could have come through my teenage years a lot worse if I hadn't had his presence. And he taught me a lot about structure and discipline and hard work. He modeled a lot of those things for me. And so, yeah, I guess I'm grateful for my bonus dad. Well, both my dad and my bonus dad, but my bonus dad in particular, because I hit that point in my life where I was really seeking a bit of that guidance and structure. And he never tried to be my dad, but he did play that bonus role. And that's why I love that term, Tommy, is I think, every parent-child relationship is different, and whether you're a biological parent or a bonus parent or a foster parent, or even just a father figure, a sports coach or a teacher or a mentor, I think there needs to be that awareness of that responsibility you hold in a child's life. And I think that's what my bonus dad did really well. He had an awareness of the impact he could have on myself, and he played that role as best he could.
It's interesting, a little bit of parallel, because my dad, when my former wife and I said that we were having a baby, well, she was having the baby, I was just there. He did not want to be a grandfather. He explicitly said, "Don't call me grandfather. Don't call me any of those cutesy names," because his mentality was, he lives in downtown Chicago. He still thinks he was that single swinging guy back in the day, which is far removed. And so I think what changed for him was the ability to meet his grandson. And once that happened, he did a total flip. And to add to that, when I got remarried, my wife has 2 daughters, and one of my best friends was getting married in the burbs of Chicago. So we did a family trip. And part of that family trip, Adam, was we went to Chicago, and my dad was the greatest tour guide you would ever meet. If you ever go to Chicago, Adam, I'll hook you up with my dad, and you guys will walk and walk and walk and walk and walk some more and then walk some more. But it was the ability to just stand back and just watch him and see my dad being not only a fantastic grandfather, but also, I guess we would call him a bonus grandfather to my 2 bonus daughters. So, it's hard for you to play that what if game if your dad was still around, but I hope that if he was still around and had the opportunity to meet your son, he too would have done a total flip.
Yeah, look, I think, well, at the end of the day, I get to think whatever I want to think, and that is what I'd hope. And we both my wife and I have bonus dads, and they've been very involved, and similar to your father of just wanting to be in his life, and it's just this magic thing of for, I don't want to say for all the brokenness, but for all the dynamics that happened in our families when we were younger. It's really nice that now our son really reaps the benefits of having all of these extra people in his life that, hopefully as he grows older, he'll be able to trust and turn to for advice at different stages.
So you were talking about your dad's mental health. So how do you protect your mental health, knowing, what you're not only just knowing, but witnessing what your dad went through? How do you have coping mechanisms?
And Tommy, I'm glad you brought this up, because there's this irony of, because of my dad's experience of mental health and the internal dialogue that created for me of feeling like I was never good enough and having to push myself, I then developed depression and anxiety within myself. And the one person who probably could have understood what I was going through was my dad, and I couldn't talk to him about it. So, there's a great irony with that. But I think, there's a lot of research now about, if you have struggles with mental illness, there is a hereditary effect to that. And if your child observes you struggling with mental illness, there can be that impact on them. There's even more research that talks about if you've previously struggled with your mental health and struggled with mental illness, then it's likely that that'll develop throughout. It will come forth again during pregnancy, and especially after the birth of a newborn. So all of this was in my head, and when we fell pregnant, it probably didn't really become a priority for me to really create some focus and some awareness around how I dealt with my mental illness until my son was born. And I think holding him, I just went, no, you know what? I want to do better. I want to be healthier. I don't want to be questioning myself all the time. I don't want to be anxious when I'm meant to be playing and present with my son. So I think for me, it's become a lot more about proactivity. I know in my own journey with mental health, it was always after the fact when I would seek help, after I'd struggled the worst with my anxiety and depression and gone to some dark places mentally, that I'd sought help. And I had to get good at seeking help out even before I was starting to feel that pressure, if there was something big happening, I needed to talk it out before I let it really manifest to something much worse. And so that's something I've had to work on. It's been stuff like, mindfulness and meditation, and even just maintaining social connections. They say that, I can't remember where I saw this or heard this, but if you can maintain social connection, if you can exercise, eat as well as you can, those things in combination, done consistently, are more effective than medication. Now, I am on medication, and I'm not advising anyone to ditch meds or anything like that. But there are a lot of proactive things that we can be doing as men to reinforce our mental health and create that emotional stability that we can show up and be present in our children's life. And that when those challenging moments come up, when my son was first born, I struggled a lot with just the endless crying. And I don't have breasts, unfortunately. Well, fortunately, unfortunately, I don't know. It depends which way you want to look at it. But I couldn't feed him. I couldn't settle him because all he wanted to do was breastfeed. And so, yeah, it was a extremely stressful sort of thing because I was having to, well, not having to, but, this crying child, and biologically there wasn't anything I could do to offer a solution for him. So, so then that was another learning experience for me of, okay, how do I get better at responding to these triggers? And so I've had to build in a whole lot of sort of pre-thinking, sort of prompts in my head that as soon as I start to sense a trigger coming along, I can start to act rather than go through this whole downward spiral into depression and anxiety and have to climb my way out of it. So yeah, it's a lot of stuff of just talking it out with other dads, with mates, with friends, keeping a running dialogue with my wife. And I just operate out of a rule of no surprises, So my wife shouldn't ever be surprised that something has happened, even at work or at home or wherever it might be. She shouldn't ever be surprised that something's happened and that's had a negative effect on me. Like, she should be able to, through that running dialogue, know that there's something big happening at work, for example, and that I might be coming home at 40% rather than 80%. And she can then respond to that. And so that's the challenge is the communication. And that doesn't come easy to me. It's not what was modeled by either my dad or my bonus dad. They were very much the strong, stoic, silent types that struggled silently and put on the rough, strong exterior. But that doesn't work for me. So I've had to learn how to keep that running dialogue going with my wife, with my best friend, with other dads, so that when push comes to shove and when something really does come up that challenges me and causes that anxiety or depressive sort of response, that I'm ready for it.
So within dadsgroup.org, there are groups. My question is this, because I love what you're saying, and I think I'm an anomaly, and that is I'm very open with my feelings. I'm very open with, talking to people, especially on a podcast, saying, "Hey, I've battled depression. I've gone through suicide, all that fun stuff."
Mm-hmm.
How within your own social group, Adam, how were you able to either talk your feelings out or have others draw their feelings to you at a comfortability level? Because we're men, we grunt, we drink, we pee, sometimes we miss the toilet, but we
and it gets magically
Yeah.
cleaned up.
Yes.
Isn't that amazing?
And
Yeah, no, I hear what you're saying, Tommy. And you know, like, I think there is a, you know, that word vulnerability gets thrown around a lot. And I think, you know, especially for us as men, that vulnerability almost has a sense of sissiness now, because it's been used so much that, you know, like, vulnerability is actually an act of weakness. But that's the point. That all of us have a weak point. And for a lot of us, we know statistically, a lot of us as men, our weak point is our mental wellness. And so, you know, it is a vulnerability to talk about it, because it's literally showing your weakness to other men. And there's that tribal part of us that is hardwired in us that won't ever let us feel safe with revealing a weakness, because, you know, John Caveman might then stab us with a spear, steal our wife and child, and take all our buffalo. Like, I don't know, but you know, so there is a tribal, you know, ancient sort of code written into us that isn't okay with sharing a vulnerability, and so we are in when we are confronted with those feelings, it is a double-edged sword that there is an unsafe feeling that we experience when we expose that, but then it also creates psychological safety by exposing that. And so that's where Dad's Group, this organization that I'm part of, is so effective, is that you chuck all of these guys together who are at various stages of their fatherhood. Some who are, you know, have got this little blob wrapped up in a in a blanket, and they're like, you know, they've got the sleep deprived look, you know, they almost look like a zombie with their blob, and they're sort of saying, help me. And then you've got other dads who, you know, their toddlers are off running away, and they've got the she'll be right attitude of, oh, you know, he's climbing on something that he's, you know, is 10 feet higher than he's ever climbed before, he'll be right. So, you know, it's very, yeah, you know, like, so, but even though all of these men are coming together at completely different stages, there's this common understanding of, hey, we're all going through something, which is fatherhood. And I think we're at a stage now where, at least in Australia, and you know, I'd be interested to hear from you about where this is at in the States, but, you know, in Australia, there is an increased awareness of the need to talk, and for the need for men to talk about particularly their mental illness, and a lot of that stigma about suffering with depression, anxiety, suicidal thoughts, self-harm, a lot of, you know, even eating disorders, a lot of those mental struggles, there's the stigma has been reduced. And I think we're at a point, again, here in Australia at least, where it's almost like a badge of honor to have shared something. You know, that you can feel proud that you actually said something, or that you were the person who listened to someone share what they've struggled with. So I think Australia, we're really at a really great spot with it now, where there's a reduced stigma, where there's a lot of resourcing. You mentioned that LinkedIn is your one point of social media, and I was scrolling through LinkedIn last night, and I at least half a dozen posts that I scrolled past that were giving practical tips of how to actually sit with someone and have that conversation when they're really struggling with their mental health. So I think where Dad's Group has really been effective is your peer group then are men who are, if not in exactly the same situation, a very similar situation of having embarked on this journey of fatherhood, which none of us have ever done before. and we're all just making it up as we go along. We say we've read the books, but really,
This is we can't read.
No, yeah. They're not rock carvings on a wall.
We need
Unless
pictures.
pop up,
Yeah.
pop up books. But yeah, I think that's where Dad's group has been really effective. Is you sort of go, well, these other blokes might get this more than, say, my colleagues at work, because they're also dealing with pooping diapers and spit up and never having clean clothes ever again.
Well, let's see, maybe a year and a half, maybe you'll have clean clothes. So start saving your shekels, because you and your wife get to go shopping.
Oh, the rate he's growing, we'll be shopping for him. So,
oh, there you go.
Yeah,
but you do make such a valid. I was going to say, Adam, you make a valid point, and maybe this is just my observation, but it does really seem that Australia is on the forefront when it comes to fatherhood, when it comes to parental leave. Here in America, we don't have parental leave. The great thing is, you and I are talking about, Dad's group, but I do see a wave of, you're talking about scrolling through LinkedIn. I remember scrolling through LinkedIn many years ago, and there was a mom on there saying, "Oh, I can't find a mom's group. I live here," and I'm like, "Really? You could throw a stone and hit a mom's group. We're all the dad's groups." And now I see between what Tom is doing here in America. We've got Matt Schneider and City Dads Group. We've got Brian Anderson with Fathering Together.
Yep.
Kenneth Broswell with Fathers Incorporated. I mean, those are just three off the top of my head.
Yeah.
And to go back to Australia is the two guys, and I happen to have notes here, Travis Garoni and Luke Slatery are the ones who came up with Movember.
Yeah.
So I still think you all in Australia are on the forefront when it comes to, fathers' rights. Parental leave. I am ashamed that how far behind we are here in America, especially for parental leave. I mean, I remember, when my son was born, if I needed to take time off, it meant I wasn't getting paid. So it gets very frustrating that, I'm biased. I'll say dads, if a dad wants to take time off, a few months even, to start bonding with their kids, their bosses are going to look at them like they're, crazy. Matter of fact, I wanted to bring this up on your website. You have the video, and it was like a news report talking about fatherhood, and it comes back to this older gentleman who was saying, "Oh, I'd rather be working than spending time with his kids." I want to just reach through the screen and just punch him.
Yeah, no, it's look, I think you've hit on a couple of really great things there where generationally we've I think right across, it's a global phenomenon that generationally we've had I would say successive generations that have been way more intentional about parenthood and fathering than what we've seen previously. I think Australia, we're in a really unique situation where, for me, and this is why Movember came out of Australia, was that suicide was one of our biggest killers of men. So I think that it's been a bit of a boiling pot here in Australia that has led to some of these really big movements. But I think you mentioned the parent leave policy. That's still a developing thing here in Australia, and for your listeners, for their context, we have government paid parental leave. Previously, that was split, so fathers had a smaller amount they could access, and mothers had a larger amount. That's now been combined, so it's just parental leave now. It's not defined as partners leave or carers leave. And that is a growing amount of leave that we'll be able to access. And so over the successive years, it'll increase as to how much will be available. But, there are parts of the world, in Scandinavia particularly, and Finland, I think, where it's not just government paid leave, but work paid leave, where employers are providing dads with a year of paid paternity leave, which is huge. And so I think even Australia has a long way to go. But yeah, I think, what Dad's Group has really hit on is that idea of, that, as you said, like you could throw a rock and hit a mum's group.
We don't recommend, by the way, I just want to mention.
Phrase. No, we don't recommend throwing rocks at mums groups.
I don't want to create violence. Exactly. Yeah. I want to take a quick break just to remind you that my new book, My Dad's Advice at 5:04 a.m., is available on the website, blendingthefamily.com. And if you order it from the website, it will be autographed. Or you can go to Amazon and also purchase the book. Again, the name of that book, My Dad's Advice at 5:04 a.m. Now, let's get back to our guest. Shall we? Let's. And let's if it's like a Nerf rock. How's that?
Yeah, that's it. But, that's how Dad's Group came about, was Tom Docking, who you've mentioned, is our founder and CEO, and he became a father for the first time and looked around and couldn't find anything for dads. And that's how we ended up with Dad's Group as a business name, because it didn't even exist. The idea, the concept, and we were first to market, at least in Australia, to sort of utilize that name. And the first Dad's Group was just him catching up with a bunch of his mates who were already dads, and he went, hang on, this works. And the concept grew from there. So it's not rocket science. And it just goes to show, like, women are much better at talking. That'll get me in trouble. Much better at connecting, much better at seeking support than what men have been. And, like, as you say, like there's mothers groups everywhere, and we as dads have sort of lagged behind in that respect, but we're catching up. And, the work we've been doing has captured the imagination of a lot of dads. While we aim at new and expecting dads, we do have a lot of further along dads, if I might say that, further along who sort of retroactively want to be part of a group and sort of say, like, oh, I wish this was around when I was a new dad. And so I think it's growing, and we're changing the culture really around what it means to be a dad, and changing the conversation. And that news report that you reference, the comments across all of our social media, it was split, and you could almost see there was an age line of like people who were maybe a bit older, who had this, the dad who worked and was provider and didn't do the touchy-feely relational sort of stuff, and then you had more recent generations who that is what we want to do, is we want to be softer, if I can say that, more intimate, more attached with our children. So
you mean, are you saying, you're not saying vulnerable Adam, are you?
Oh, I don't know. Someone might hear that. But like um, on our podcast, I was talking to someone, and she said she remembered this point in time where all of a sudden it became a fashion trend for dads to baby wear, and all the sort of baby carrier companies started putting men in their advertising, and it became this fashionable. Well, by the time I became a dad, it was a given that I wanted to carry my kid around in a baby carrier. So yeah, I think there is change. There's change a coming, and it's long due. But yeah, I think we'll see more and more as workplaces become more aware of the human needs of their employees. That yeah, we will see workplaces become more supportive of dads and more supportive of men who want to engage in fathering behavior.
I remember I was doing years ago speaking event, and there was a bunch of sponsors there, and one of them was trying to create like diaper bags and even some clothing geared towards men, towards dads. Because, way back in the day, majority of all the diaper bags were very feminine looking. They weren't really designed for us rugged dads, with spittle all over ourselves or baby poop. But
Yeah.
I was like, that's brilliant. You're starting to finally market to dads, but by that time my kid was way out of diapers, thank goodness.
Yes, I can't wait.
Yeah. But the other thing you bring up, Adam, which cracks me up, is the organization's name. You would have thought somebody would have grabbed that years ago, but Dad's Group
you would have
was still available.
Yeah, and the funny part is when people say, okay, so but what does Dad's Group do? And I was like, we run dads groups. Oh, so but it's not just dads groups now. We've expanded, so we've got a number of groups that are based in community on the ground, led by local dads, and so that's really our bread and butter is connecting dads into their communities and with other dads. So that they're receiving that support. And what we see is when dads are socializing in that way, it reduces the mental health factors that could lead to particularly postnatal depression. It increases their positive behavior within their home and within their household. So, leading to a decrease in violent behavior towards their partners and children. And it allows them to actively engage with their child, which then leads to positive developmental milestones within their children. So it absolutely makes sense for dads to be engaging in dads groups. And yet for some reason it hadn't happened. And yeah, so Tom stumbled upon this idea of, well, hey, this actually works when dads gather together and swap ideas and swap morning tea and share diaper bags. That this actually really works. And it didn't take long for it to spread like wildfire. COVID, as with all things, it had an impact on us being able to gather, and we're still trying to get things back up and running to the scale that we had pre-COVID. But we've partnered with a number of hospitals, which is really exciting. Where if every time a couple of family come in to have a baby, there are certain hospitals, if they go there, they're automatically enrolled into our database, and they actually have to opt out of Dad's Group, which is as we know, men never get round to opting out or unsubscribing from things. So it's been a win for us.
This is true.
And so we're in hospitals. We've got a corporate program, so we're going into workplaces and speaking to the dads in the workplace, but then also impacting the workplace culture that allows their colleagues and their employers to support them better. And we're across the digital space, and as you say, like we're on LinkedIn, but across all the social media, and with our podcast now, especially that, even we've got a lot of remote dads in Australia, literally living out back and traveling to work on their kangaroo, and so we need to be right across it. That obviously doesn't happen. But yeah, like we've the reality is we can't reach every dad yet, so we're trying to. And if we reach a couple of kangaroos along the way, hey, that's a bonus, right?
Don't make me start quoting Crocodile Dundee with you, Adam, because I was telling Michael Ray, who I was speaking with, I said, one of the things that the part of the reason why I don't do video, and a lot of other podcasters say you're an idiot, and I'm like, I know I'm an idiot, but anyway, number one, it creates bias when you open up a camera and you start looking at somebody. The other piece is I just don't want to scare the guests. That's why. But the funny thing is, and the best for me, the best part is when you were talking and you just said kangaroos, we can't, and I'm just standing here laughing. I am cracking up, and it's just like, oh, he just said kangaroo. That is fantastic. Love the humor.
Look, we as dads, we need to have a sense of humor, and not just the on the nose dad jokes, but I think we need to approach all of life with a bit of a sense of humor, because if we take it too seriously, then not only does that impact our own health, but like it creates a weight on all our relationships, I think. Yeah, so having a sense of humor, not necessarily being funny, but just seeing the humor in things, is such an underrated emotional intelligence skill set.
Oh yeah. Oh, it is. It is. I was on Brian Anderson's Fathering Together podcast. He said, "Do you have a dad joke for us?" I go, "No, I don't do dad jokes. I'm more like a Seinfeld. I'm a more observational dad humor than I'm not here to do a stand-up comedian thing." Question for you, Adam, that I saw on LinkedIn, and that is Sockless Heroes.
Sockless Heroes.
What is Sockless Heroes?
Yeah. We launched it just a few days ago, and it is our primary campaign for this year, to fundraise. So Dad's Group is a not-for-profit charity. Not charity, sorry. It's a not-for-profit. My day job is in a charity. That's just got too much on the plate. Getting a little confused. Yeah, Dad. Yeah. No, so we're a not-for-profit. We're operating off of community grants and donor support. So this is our big fundraising campaign to really get some funds in that we can create some sustainable programs. Part of the issue we've hit is that the grants that we're that are funding us are all time bound, and what happens at the end of those grants is we then basically have to shut the program down because there's no money. So we've seen community groups, our local dads groups, really thriving, and once that funding is dried up, basically it's on the dads to try and keep it going without that support. Or we're a small team. I'm a full-time volunteer with Dad's Group, part-time volunteer with Dad. See, I'm so confused. It's the time zone thing, Tommy. You've got me all mixed up.
Should we just start over, Adam?
Yeah, is that okay?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Adam, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I am so excited for you to be here. Question number
thanks,
one.
Rob. It's good to be here and fathering together. And
see, this is what happens when you have the toddlerish age. It just melts your brain until I think all the other part of it, Adam, is too. It's the diapers. It's the fumes.
Yeah, that's it.
The fumes hitting your brain.
Man.
Yeah.
This morning was brutal. Sockless Heroes is our primary campaign for 2023, and we, as Dad's Group, we really operate off of our income streams are grants, so community grants or private grants, government grants, and also just generosity of people in our community.
Grant?
Hugh Grant. I wish. Can I get him for the podcast? We're in the Commonwealth. I'm sure there's a connection.
I'm sure.
But yeah, also the generosity of our donors. And what that means, particularly with the grants, is that once they're time bound, and once they expire, often we have to pull one of our projects or one of our groups because we just can't fund it anymore. We can't fund the staffing or the resourcing. So we've come up with Sockless Heroes, and the idea of Sockless is, how many pairs of socks have you gotten on Father's Day, on birthdays, Christmas, and they're always, weird designs or something that our kids think is funny or our partner thinks is funny. So the idea behind Sockless Heroes is, hey, look, save the socks for someone who really cares. And so the invitation. So in Australia, Father's Day is the first weekend,
September 3rd.
Yep, that's right. So, for all our North American friends, you're welcome to celebrate with us and double dip. Double dad dip. But yeah, it's the idea is for Father's Day for children and parents to really show your love and support of that dad in your life, to consider making a donation to Dad's Group through our Sockless Heroes campaign. And we give a beautiful adorned certificate to each donor, which you can then gift to your dad to say, hey, we think you're awesome. We think you should probably join Dad's Group and stop, embarrassing us with your lame jokes, and, just go congregate with other people who will actually find you funny. But no, it's
like or maybe a kangaroo might find it funny.
So the idea is, bypassing some of those token Father's Day gifts to really make a difference and an impact for dads across our community and across our nation. And who knows, we might be expanding into other markets. So it's the more donors we get, the more impact we can create, and to be able to be in a position to collaborate with a lot of other movements as well that are doing this good work.
Can I steal you for a few more minutes? I know we're coming up on.
Yeah, no, please.
But you're talking about
also
support.
Apologies that I changed my pronunciation there from Grant to Grant. I don't know why I was saying Grant and I committed to it, and then I was like, no, it's weird. Sorry, Colin.
I think you should become an actor. I think that's going to be your next job. How can moms support the organization?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And it's one of the things that we've hit on with Dad's Group. We talk about, we're not just about helping fathers, but helping families. And our approach is through the father, and we help families by building up dads. But, mums play an important job too. And the amount of dads who rock up to their first Dad's Group meeting and they say, oh, actually, in true Aussie style, the missus signed me up. Or, wife saw this on Facebook and told me she thought I should go along. And so, that's a big role for our mums to play is, dads are hesitant when it comes to new social situations. By the age of your kids, Tommy, you're probably not watching Bluey, or you are.
I'm gonna pause you right there. Yes, I am watching Bluey. Yeah. Here's why. Here's So my wife's nephew, it's a really weird situation. My wife's nephew lives with us. His girlfriend, uh, she lives with her parents on the other side of town. He lives with us. They have a 3-year-old named Liam, cool kid. I've already had to change one diaper after, let's see, like I said, my son's 19, 17 years, 18
Yeah.
years, something like that. But yes,
Mm-hmm.
watch Bluey. And
Yes.
I'm on the fence. But yes, to answer your question, I watch Bluey.
Okay. Yeah. But like there's an episode, and I keep telling people it's a dad's group episode where Bluey's dad, Bandit, is at the park, and it's early in the morning. There's one other dad there, and they end up having to play together with the kids, and they end up connecting, and that's really, it speaks to the heart of the difficulty of connecting with another man. That I think as men, it is confronting. It is, again, that word, that V word, vulnerable, to connect with another, well, anyone really that's outside of our regular what's this, regular circles. So I think our mums have played a big role in encouraging their partners to come along to dad's group, and once they're there, they go, oh well, actually this is great. The other way that mums can support dad's group is just by sharing it out. All these mums groups that are out there, like, hey, promote dad's group to all your partners, and or partner with a dad's group, have mum and dad's groups, and they could take turns at looking after the kids, and the other group could go out for drinks or something. So look, there's lots of ways. I think the biggest way that mums can support dad's group is just supporting their dad. Not their dad, but supporting their partner, and their dad too, I guess. We've got granddads that are part of dad's group. So, so I think, feel free to listen along to the Dad's Group podcast. It's called the Dad's Group podcast. We're not very original. I
was going to say, how original.
But, like, we've had some... but, we've had some incredible guests that speak to the whole family dynamic as well. And we've had mums on our podcast that have spoken to that interrelationship between a father and a mother and their children. And so, like, we're not just pumping stuff out for the dads. We're creating content for our mums as well. So, it's not an exclusive club here, despite the name. And because at the end of the day, like, a lot of us as dads have been in those situations that have been mum predominantly led or servicing, and we've felt that awkwardness of being the only dad in the room. And I think a big part of dad's group is to create a welcome and inclusive space for all the family. So a lot of our dad's group meetings is actually just a bunch of dads chasing after their kids on a playground. It's not actually the dads connecting. And so we've had to learn, like, okay, like, maybe every now and then we don't bring the kids along and we can actually have that point of connection, or, so, but yeah, no, mums are very welcome to engage in dad's group. Yeah.
I mean, I remember when, I would volunteer to chaperone field trips, and I would be usually the only dad, unless it was like a Friday and some of the dads would just take the day off. But yeah, a lot of those times I was a special unicorn. I would be the only dad there. So those are things I miss. I really do miss those opportunities of hanging out with the kids, and that's where you get to see your kids in action. But you also get to see, in their face, Adam, this is a proud moment for them, because, hey, this is my dad. I get to share my dad. And it's, oh gosh, memories.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, every time I do the daycare pickup, my boy just lights up. And more recently, he's wanted to show me off to his friends. The first few times, he just wanted out of there. But, yeah, like, it's almost like it's like show and tell. Hey, look, here, I've got a dad.
By the way, you're talking about your podcast on Dad's Group. I didn't see anything about blended families. Just saying, Adam. Just in case you need somebody to talk about blended families. Anyway.
Oh no, definitely. We season 1, we definitely had some of our dads who are bonus dads. But yeah, we definitely would love to have you on our show, Tommy. Absolutely.
I'm just saying, Adam. I'm just throwing it out there. Just saying.
Hey, we're a reciprocal organization.
Perfect. I won't mention that need some blog content, but that's just me. That's just me putting it out there for you, Adam. I'm here to serve. I'm here for you. Just remember that.
We do, though.
Yeah. I like that. That was underneath your breath. Oh my gosh, he's right. We do. This has been a lot of fun, Adam.
It has been.
My goal is to come to Australia. It's been on both my wife and I, our bucket list to come to Australia. And I have met so many great people through LinkedIn, even being a past member of Toastmasters. And I fell in love. I'll admit this might show my age, but I fell in love with Australia because of the band INXS. I'm a huge fan of INXS. So one day I'm going to make the pilgrimage to Australia and just hang out with, as you would say, hang out with my blokes.
That's it. Yeah, you come on up to Brisbane. We'll get you around some kangaroos and have a good time. Chuck another. There was a campaign, and Paul Hogan, the crocodile,
Dundee,
Crocodile Dundee. Yeah, chuck another shrimp on a barbie, and that one just like for Australians, we're like, what? Because we don't call them shrimp, we call them prawns. And if you're having a barbecue, it's sausages or steak. We don't often barbecue seafood.
Really?
So that one was it's a perplexing one for us as Australians that, we don't really know who was behind that marketing campaign, but it's misrepresented.
Okay, so here's an open invitation, Adam. If you ever come to the States, if you ever come to Colorado, especially in the summertime, don't come in the wintertime. But I will cook shrimp on the grill for you. How's that?
Yeah, nice. Yeah. Nice. Sounds
just
good.
For you.
Sounds
Nobody
good.
else. Just you.
Yep.
Yeah. Adam, just how can
my wife will be waiting outside?
Yeah. Drooling, going, I want something. Nope.
Drooling. Oh,
sorry. Hey, how can the listeners serve Dad's Groups? What can they do for the organization?
Yeah, well, definitely. We mentioned Sockless Heroes. If you're able to, if you're in a position to, we would love for you to support us through that campaign. You can find that at socklessheroes.com. I think it's .com. Sockless Heroes. You can find all the information about Dad's Group on dadsgroup.org. Again, very, very original. But yeah, you'll find links to everything there, to all our different programs. We do online webinars quite regularly, and even if you're in the States, we'd love for you to log on and join us from Over the Gap. And of course, I've mentioned the podcast here, and we'll have our upcoming interview with Tommy Maloney. So you'll have to subscribe and listen along to the podcast in anticipation. We'll build up.
Yeah.
We'll build up. I'll chuck a couple of easy guests in, so when you come in, Tommy, you'll look really good.
Well, I'll have a tie on. I might not have socks, but I'll have a tie on.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I said, yeah. I don't know if there was an easy, catchy tie-less heroes, or I'm not sure. Sockless worked. But yeah, check out Sockless Heroes, check out dadsgroup.org. You'll find all the links there.
Yeah, find Adam Burns on LinkedIn. He is the podcast creative producer / content creator who needs a little help with the blog, but that's just me talking. On dadsgroup.org. Adam, this has been a blast.
It has been.
We're
a blast.
gonna, you know what? I'm gonna tell you right now, and I don't say this to everyone, but usually I do. But you have an open invite anytime you want to come back, Adam. But I am going to tell you, we're going to do a part 2. And it might not be talking about Dad's group.
Please.
It will be talking about something, because I feel that you and I could just sit and talk about rocks, pens, and just have a great time.
Absolutely. Well, if you're in Denver, I'll definitely have to come over and catch a Nuggets game.